Welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
And we couldn't wait to get past October and November. Wasn't much better. But we'll see what December brings for our Leafs. Positive is that players return from injury. Matthews, Nyes, and Nicholas Roy all returned to the lineup in the game versus the Blue Jackets. And we were hoping for at least one of those players to return a game earlier versus the Habs in what was one of the worst games of for the Leafs of the season. And unfortunately, we were actually at that game in Montreal. Fortunately or unfortunately, I mean, we made the best of it. It was overall, it was a fun road trip, but it wasn't that great for the fact that they played a horrible game. But
it was fun for the Habs fans who were basically making fun of us the whole time. You know, just kind of prodding and poking at us a little bit. But that also made it fun too, in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. We had quite a few, mostly Hab fans around us. And and it's always, it's always fun time anyways. We'd be giving it to them if we had actually had a good game too. But
there were a lot of Leaf fans. There were a lot of Leaf fans, though.
Yeah. But one thing we should mention about the ticket prices, I mean, we did have to wait until like the afternoon of the game, game date, to actually buy tickets that were...
And we weren't the only ones either.
Right.
Because we were monitoring it, like basically minute by minute, refreshing, waiting for the ticket prices to go down to like a reasonable level. It was super expensive. And I did look at a game of, the following week versus the Washington Capitals. And those tickets were not as inflated as our tickets. So really the teams, road teams and the NHL in general, like it's the Leafs and Leaf fans bear the brunt of the expense of propping up this league in a lot of ways. So
because you understand why there's so many Hab fans when they come to Toronto. The tickets are cheap here in comparison to what they charge for Leaf fans, like for going into Montreal. Like the comparison is like hundreds of dollars, I would say. Like it's just ridiculous, but in that way. But overall, like the game atmosphere, I mean, it was really cool to, like, in the Bell Center, like they have it's almost like a party atmosphere. I mean, yes, they did win. I don't know if it's the same that way when they lose, obviously, but they had like a live band on a couple of the spots in the
it was there was live music everywhere. Like even outside there's a DJ. You go in, there's like DJs on multiple different levels, live music playing in certain areas.
And it was cool. The one thing that was cool was that they actually let fans in like 2 hours before the game. And so you could go and enjoy, not have to like shovel down food so fast before the game starts. You're not allowed to actually go into the rink. Okay, but they allow you to go into the building and you could buy food and just take your time and enjoy the music and the atmosphere and that. I thought that was cool as well.
Yeah, and I do think, it goes a long way to really, enhancing the ambiance and the energy in that building. Like it is, it's high the whole time. And they're like the rest of the game ops, it's probably pretty similar. They have like the, stuff on the ice and everything else. But yeah, I just found like the energy there was great. And the other thing that I think is really key is that, obviously they have a lot of corporate people there too, but where they put them? Not in the stands. They have 2 full rings all the way around of corporate boxes. And I'm pretty sure that is where all those people are.
Yeah.
And on the 200 level, and honestly, it makes for a way better game experience. And that is like just by design is a flaw, I think, in Scotiabank Arena. It's probably not the only rink that has that flaw, but that was genius the way they did that there, because it's just, you've got that energy constant, and it's like just real fans everywhere.
Yeah. It gives it brings a different energy to the building, basically, during the game. Although there was this corner section, I'm not sure who sits there, but at the beginning of the periods, that section in the corner was always empty. It eventually filled, but the whole corner was empty. I don't know what that was.
That's the Molson area.
Right? But yeah, so it's not like it's only Scotiabank Arena that has the platinum section where it's empty at the start of the periods. But yeah, no, overall it was good. I mean, it's a very easy city. We've been there several times before. It's just been quite a number of years, so it's a very easy city to get around, and it was fun. And this time at least it wasn't. Normally we've gone right in the middle of winter, so this time
it was actually nice and a mildish weekend. Not too wet and soggy or anything either, and a lot of walking. I did get some blisters. But so basically we were able to take the metro everywhere we wanted to go, or walk wherever we wanted to go. And as always, the food didn't disappoint. Amazing food. They have like really high quality, farm fresh stuff there. And in not just specific places, you could feel that everywhere, whether you went to a small diner or a high-end restaurant. So they take the quality of their food there, I think, pretty seriously. So it was really good.
And taking Via Rail is the best way to go, because it takes you right down to the center of the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was just that was a nice journey as well, too. Yeah. So always enjoy that trip too. All right. So now it's time to get on with the show, and we are going to be running our first edition of Leaf It to the Ladies. And this is where we give you, Leafs Nation, the opportunity to share your questions or comments on the Leafs with us. And then for the third period segment, we welcome Toronto Star Leafs reporter and author Kevin McGran to the show. So without any further ado, let's talk Leafs.
So thanks to the fans who took the time to leaf it to the ladies. Let's get right into it with our first caller, Michael from Toronto.
This is Michael from Toronto, and my question is, with the coaching turnover that's happened in recent years with the Toronto Maple Leafs, is the problem that the roster basically forces the team to play a certain style and the coach can't change that? Or is it that the team cannot adapt to the playoff style of hockey? And at the end of the day, what is the fate of Craig Berube if he can't make the necessary changes?
All right. So Michael's comments it's kind of two parts, in that he asks about whether or not the roster makeup forces the team to have to play a certain style, or is it the team that can't adapt to playoff style hockey? And then obviously the fate of Craig Berube, I guess, if he can't get this team to buy in and make the necessary adjustments to how they play. So I don't know. At first I was thinking that the roster makeup can only play a certain way, but then you look at the two games recently, I guess, versus Washington and Pittsburgh. I mean, they lost to Washington, but you could see the style of play that they could play it for majority of the game, but then there's always that lapse, right? And then against Pittsburgh, I mean, there was no contest there. Like, they thoroughly outplayed Pittsburgh and had a big win there with 7 goals. And I think it helps too, obviously, that we're getting our injured players back. So I just think really it's really just on the players to just continue to work towards buying into the system. And what do you think about that part of his question?
I mean, I kind of agree that, but I do kind of feel that the roster does kind of want to play a certain style. Like was actually kind of telling to me when they interviewed Auston Matthews after that Washington Capitals game. He made a point of, saying, that Washington was playing kind of east-west. So, that kind of stuck it in my mind. And of course, Willie's constant going back and forth with Berube. I kind of feel like he's resistant to wanting to always do some of the things that he wants. One thing, is they to give the puck away the way they do, to dump it in, you have to chase it. And I've been saying this all season, that we look slow. We're one of the older teams in the league. We don't have as much team speed now as we used to. That makes it harder to play that style, especially if you're not going to be if you're not an ultra competitive guy. I think some of these guys are super talented, but the compete level, I don't know if that's always consistent. They brought in guys like, Dakota Joshua to be that person. Interestingly, I would say after last night's game against Pittsburgh on Saturday, that's the best I think I've ever seen him look. So I don't know.
That's the Dakota Joshua that we were thinking we were going to get from the start.
So it basically begs the question, though, are we going to see that guy again moving forward?
Right. Yeah.
This road trip, regardless, is going to tell the tale. And if they're going to be getting incrementally better, like we have seen, so far in these last two games, if they can build on that and come home, with a decent record after this stretch, that may just save Craig Berube to go into the next part of the question.
Yeah.
So do I think that he's going to ultimately get fired after not even 2 seasons? I would think that they would have to really, I don't know what they would have to do. It would be take them ending up in like last, I think.
Yeah.
Or having another stretch of like 9 games where they're just not doing anything. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, just going back a bit to what you were saying about Nylander and his back and forth with with Craig Berube, that's where I think Craig Berube needs to make those adjustments based on what the players are telling him that way, sort of thing, right? Like he needs to work with them too, and hopefully he is to make the adjustments maybe on what the players are saying too, right? It's not just all about him and his ideas. And I mean, yes, he's won a Stanley Cup previously, but he needs to work with them too and make the right adjustments. As to his future, I mean, I don't think from like, even if they're absolutely horrible, and like are like bottom 5 in the league by the time the season's over, like I just don't see it, because even like Elliot Friedman, Darren Dreger, all the insiders are saying like it's not happening. Like everything, like there's no sign whatsoever that that's going to happen. So I'm just going to go by that. And I mean, it's only his second season, like you said, right? So I just think he needs to be given more time. And as you were saying off the show too, if you look at like Sheldon Keefe, like look how long of a time he was here. And it's not like, I mean, the team did well, but I mean, when it mattered most in the playoffs, it didn't happen, right? So on several opportunities. And
like I agree with you that there needs to be a little more flexibility in the way they want to play. Like it can't be this is the way and that's it. Like you've got your overreaching kind of design of how you want to play, but based on who you have, I think there needs to be some flexibility there. And truly, I don't understand this whole copycat mentality or the desire to just play one way. I think you have to create your own identity as a team based on the people that you have and the strengths that they have. And what's wrong with playing a hybrid style? And maybe if you really stick to who you are as a team, next year somebody's going to be copying you. You know, look at the Blue Jays. They're a perfect example of that. They're playing a different style of ball than most teams were playing. And it was successful for them because it played to their team's strengths. So that's what they kind of have to do. I really hope that they figure that out over the next, few weeks, let's say, and turn things around. All right. So our second question comes from Diana from Toronto, but she is currently calling us from the UK. So let's have a listen.
Hi, I'm Diana. I'm from Toronto, but I'm in the UK right now for school. But my question is, in the dreamland of the Leafs winning the Stanley Cup, what would you want for the championship? Like how the Raptors had their parade. I know obviously we would have a parade, but what would be something you would want included in the celebration of winning the Stanley Cup?
All right. So what do we think? Like that Diana's comment, very, very positive. We love that. There are still Leaf fans like this that exist.
So talking about a Stanley Cup parade.
Yeah. So if we have a parade, if we're so lucky to have a parade, what would we want included in that parade? What are the fine points that would make it the ultimate for us Leaf fans?
So I didn't have to think about this too long. I just want Maple Leaf Gardens to be included somehow, whether it be just starting the parade from there or something, because the rink is still there, so they could do something inside the rink too, just to maybe not right on parade day, but the day before or day after, something like that. Anyways, and obviously to have alumni involved. But my main thing is to have that building, it'll be kind of cool, I think, because you'd have the start of it from Maple Leaf Gardens going to now Scotiabank Arena, right? I like to end it there, or I don't know about the whole where the route is going to take us, but started at Maple Leaf Gardens, and I'm good. And one thing to note too to our listeners, if you notice, she's left a message. She's in the UK, so wherever you are, what you could leave a message for us from wherever you are, and leave it to the ladies. But yeah, what did you have any other idea for?
Well, for me, I kind of feel like, I don't know if they can start it at Maple Leaf Gardens, because we know from the Raptor Parade how many people came to that parade, and I'll ask you a couple questions about that in a second.
Yeah,
but I think that's not a long enough route if they start it from there. So, but definitely it needs to go by there, and there needs to be some reverence, either they stop there for a moment of silence or something, to basically incorporate
not a moment of silence, moment of celebration.
Moment of celebration, yeah. So
go Leafs, go chant right in front.
To basically pull that history in. And for me too, the other thing is why does it have to be just a one and done parade? I'm kind of happy with a week long bunch of events throughout the city.
Yeah.
Celebrating it in multiple different ways. So I would kind of like to see more of a week long celebration, maybe kicking off with the parade and yeah. So
other activities for, I already said, if they ever get that far, I've always said to myself, I'm taking the whole month off, basically. I'm not available for anything. We'll be available for the podcast, and that's it. So yeah.
So I brought up the Raptors parade. Yeah. So you actually, I didn't go to that, but you did go on that day to take in that incredible event. What are some things that you noticed that having done that and seeing what that was like, what can they improve upon this time to make sure that it runs super smoothly?
A little bit smooth. Obviously nothing's ever going to be 100%, but definitely the crowd control at the start of the parade, wherever they started, for the Raptors, because they were down by the lakeshore by Exhibition, and the buses with the players and coaching staff and all that, they couldn't get through because the people were like barricading them. So we were up at like Dundas and University waiting for hours for this parade to come through. And it's just like everybody's like asking each other, so that like where is everything? Like, are they coming or what's happening? Right. So eventually they did get there like 5-6 hours later.
Like I don't think that they were prepared for the amount of people. I don't think they realized that Toronto was so starved for like anything to celebrate with regards to sports teams that everybody was there. So hopefully they've learned from that, that there's going to be a lot of people.
There wasn't any issues with as far as like the restaurants and the washrooms along University Avenue, and like you could go in and use the washroom facilities if you needed to. You could and everybody was great. Like the atmosphere, the people and everything. We were just wondering where the hell are the players, and with the trophy too, right? With the championship trophy. So, but yeah, so that's the only thing really that stands out in my mind that they definitely have to improve on for the Leafs Stanley Cup parade, because we know it's going to happen.
Yeah, and the only thing too that I think of is the Leaf fans throughout Canada, because obviously we know that there's Leaf fans everywhere, and but because it's like a Toronto team, like you can't really have people going across the country to celebrate this, although that would be nice, but I'm pretty sure that some of the other markets would not appreciate that.
Yeah.
But anyway, it would be great if they could do that kind of a cross country thing. But anyway, so you know what? We're hopeful and we're always optimistic that things can turn around for this Leafs team. And we want to thank, again, everyone who took the time to call in. And we'll have another segment of Leaf It to the Ladies in January for you. So you've got until then to think of your questions and give us a shout. We can't wait to hear more of your comments and questions on the Leafs. And it is so simple. You can find the SpeakPipe link that is in all of our social media profile pages and in our show notes. You just hit reply and then you can leaf it to the ladies. All right. So as we mentioned off the top of our show, we all know it's been a tough season for the Leafs so far, with a lot of players struggling, including our captain, Auston Matthews. There is still plenty of time for a player of his caliber to turn things around, we know, and we are hoping that he will return to form and be the dominant player that we're used to seeing and watching from a couple of seasons ago. Matthews is now in his 10th season with the Leafs, and for our third period segment, we welcome to the show Kevin McGran, the author of the book, Auston Matthews, A Life in Hockey.
The holiday season is here, and for hockey fans, a good book about their favorite team or player is always a popular gift item. Kevin McGran is the author of the best-selling book, Auston Matthews, A Life in Hockey, and he joins us for our third period segment.
Kevin covers the Leafs and the NHL for the Toronto Star newspaper and is now a best-selling author with his first book on the Leafs captain. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Well, thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
We're really excited to have you, and we're excited to get the inside scoop on Auston from you.
And here it is, the book. You can get it anywhere you buy books, Indigo, Amazon, all those places. But
I've signed a few at various Indigos, so you might get an autographed one.
That's right. That's right.
Wow.
Signed by author. Look for that label.
Even better. Better.
Okay, so the first question we have, I guess the first part of the book goes through Auston Matthews' childhood and youth years, and I found this the most interesting part was when he was playing in Switzerland. And in the book, you wrote, "This kid from Arizona with Mexican roots playing Canada's game with an American passport could finally get to work in Switzerland." I was amazed at that sentence. It stood out to me how remarkable his path to the NHL truly was. And when you were doing the research for the book, was there something that you didn't know or that surprised you about his path to the NHL?
Well, I mean, that's part of the reason I wrote the book, because his path to the NHL is so different from every other player. Now, a handful of players would have had sort of, small market hockey background. But when you think of the greats, right, you think of Gordie Howe and you think of Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin and Connor McDavid, they all grew up in a hockey culture in winters with frozen ponds and lots of rinks and a hockey ecosystem of minor hockey that pushed them along the way. The reason I wrote it is because he belongs in those. He's on track to be in one, the greatest Maple Leaf of all time, and he comes from a state with no natural forming ice. He learned to skate on plastic ice, synthetic ice. There's no hockey eco culture there at all. The parent had no idea what the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do was. And so all these things happen, and he becomes, in my mind, the greatest Maple Leaf ever. Like, how did that happen? So those are the right. stories I wanted to tell along the way, like his skating coach Boris and all these sort of, the movie Sliding Doors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I see his life as a series of sliding doors, where if one thing doesn't happen, maybe he doesn't happen, right? If he doesn't, if the family doesn't meet Boris as the skating coach,
how did that happen?
So Boris is only the skating coach because the Iron Curtain fell, right? He comes from Ukraine. He moves to Mexico. The family meet him there because they have Mexican heritage. Boris didn't speak any English. He spoke Spanish, so the family had to speak to him in Spanish to convince him to come to Arizona to coach their son. So that doesn't happen, right? He doesn't become a hockey fan if the Winnipeg Jets don't move to Arizona, right? There's so many little bits and pieces that happen, and then in his formative years, that's when we all remember, like Arizona. Jim Balsillie was going to move the team to Hamilton. Well, Auston was 11 or 12 at that time. If the team moves then, maybe he plays baseball instead, right? Mm-hmm. There's all these sort of weird little things that happen along the way. And then he's, as you mentioned, the Switzerland thing. Yeah. No American or Canadian player goes over to Switzerland in their draft year. That's never happened, right? That just doesn't happen. You play major, junior, or university, and then you get drafted.
And I saw in the book, too, like he didn't get, like he wasn't approved to play in Switzerland. Like it took some time to actually get
the
them
plan
over
was
there.
For him. Yeah. The plan, the agent, the family, and the team in Switzerland wanted him,
right?
As direct Lions, right? First off, he was 17, and the Swiss league, I think they get six foreigners in. By that, it's usually North Americans, often Russians. And
adults normally,
and adults, and they don't like to give that up to a team. Like they want like an ex-NHLer in that job, right? Mm-hmm. So that's so they convinced the team that he was good enough. The team saw him, they knew it, and then the Swiss government wasn't going to let him. He was just too young, and then they finally came to an agreement. He can play after he turns 18, as long as he's graduated high school, and he hadn't graduated at that point. So he had to race off and find a high school equivalency diploma at a community college near him. So it's like you got to get all that done, and then he could go play in Switzerland. And I think that year in Switzerland probably did him a world of good. I think it changed who he was, right? As some of the players on that Swiss team say, like he came over in baggy pants and baseball caps, and he went back with a sense of style in terms of his wardrobe. So he and Willie Styles they go back and forth about who's got the best clothes, and I think that's a fun part of being who they are that I think we should celebrate. And I know a lot of hockey people don't go for that, but I think that's totally show your personality and what you wear,
Well, beyond that too, like I kind of feel like, as you're describing all the loops and hurdles that he had to jump through, a guy that's as talented as him, like you mentioned, Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, like even if you want to look at Marner, who was coming up at the same time on our team, they didn't have to jump through any hoops. They basically slid right through because they were always the best wherever they played. Like they didn't have those hurdles, or have to show and prove how badly they wanted to make it,
Right. Well, we have the pyramid system here where the best of the best just keep moving up, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Arizona, if you come to tryouts, you've made the team, right? Like
pretty much,
yeah.
That's basically it, right?
Yeah.
So, he was the best of the best. I mean, I tell the story. This is one of the things I hadn't realized. I mean, you sort of could have guessed it, but, when he was 8 years old, he was just a rink rat, and he was at this 3-on-3 rink, and they had teams, and the teams needed 5 players to play, and he would just watch. He would count the guys going into the dressing room, and if they didn't have enough players, he'd tell Sean White, the manager, said, I'll go play for them, okay? And he had a color. He had every jersey for every team. Like, it was just color based: orange, red team, blue team, whatever. And this one day, like, he's 8, the kids are like 13 or 14, and they say they don't want him. And Sean White, you have to take him, because you have to take this kid. And by the end of the game, he'd scored 8 goals. And the next time, these 13-year-olds say, "Yeah, we'll take him next time." Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. All right. So obviously, as a Leaf reporter, you have spoken to Auston Matthews almost on a daily basis. But how difficult was it for you to write this book when you didn't have his direct involvement in writing the story?
Well, he was good about it. Like, whenever I asked him a question, he answered. And as far as I can tell, he answered it honestly. And I didn't really, I would have liked to talk to the parents a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But, I understand that their story is their story to tell. And I'm happy with that. What I also kind of like about the way I've written it is that the words are from the night things happened. So his 4-goal game, which is how the book starts, I think it's better told from the night of the 4-goal game than asking 10 years later about your 4-goal game, right? I think the raw honesty, right, when things are happening is tells more of the story than what do you remember about? What do you remember about? So it didn't really hinder me. In fact, in some ways, it freed me to tell my version of his story. So it's and without having to worry about what do you think of this adverb or that adverb. Like I'm totally. I do that every day. It's my version of the Leafs every day.
Yeah.
What do I see?
Right.
What I think interesting, and that's what this book is. It's what I found really interesting about him, and it's not really just about him. Because I did write it for his fans, because he's got a lot of fans, but I also kind of wanted, being like an old guy who's been around the Leafs forever, I also kind of wanted to tell the story of the Maple Leafs in the book so that his fans would understand some of their history. So there is a sort of later in the book, it sort of gets into how the Leafs get them and what were their issues and why 1967 is important and all of that kind of stuff.
Well, we sure appreciate that angle. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, I found it interesting too, like how you spoke to like Tyler Bozak, James Van Riemsdyk, like you have quotes from those players from that time when he first got into the league, and
even Lou was good. Lou gave me more than I thought he was going to give me. Some people might say we tanked. Yeah, Lou. Some people might say that. In fact, I just did.
All right. So, actually, speaking of Lou, it's kind of going right into our next question about, I guess, an interesting time in the Matthews era was when Kyle Dubas became the Leafs general manager, and Lou Lamoriello was out, but his belief that the logo is the face of the franchise and not any particular player. I guess you wrote that Matthews understood this better than most. Can you talk a little bit about that? And if you think like that idea of the way Lou Lamoriello is more, I guess you'd say old school, and how that, if that changed Matthews at all under Dubas, like to say that you noticed anything that, from his...
a few things. So, Lou really liked Auston and his parents. They got along great. I think they're still friends now, and they would talk a great deal. And Auston, despite one very famous misstep, he's not a partier. He's not he's just not a guy that seeks that. He's maybe too serious for his own good. If you ask me, like he maybe today should be having more fun than he takes losing very seriously, very heavily. He changed a little bit under Kyle in that he came out a little bit more in terms of his own personality. Like he was one of the driving forces between relaxing the dress code and those little sorts of things. But he also played incredibly well, so he's backing up desire for change with his play. I'd say about his contract that he signed under Kyle. I think Kyle's made the admission that signing John Tavares changed everything about the team, and maybe it wasn't the right move at the time. I mean, I like Tavares. I think he's fantastic. He's played up to the contract. But I would say, so they all, the core four get the big four deals, right? And they lived through that, and that was what it was. At the time, the salary cap was supposed to go up and up and up and up and up. And right after they all signed, that's when we had COVID. That's when we had the pandemic. That's when we had the flat cap. And so they're losing players like Zach Hyman and whoever else, Connor Brown and all that, because the cap is not going up as it is now. Like if they'd signed those deals now, if this was the time, like the Montreal Canadiens are lucking into, those contracts wouldn't seem as big or as selfish. They would just be the next steps along the way.
Mm-hmm. All right. And so I guess did you approach Kyle Dubas at all? Like I'd like to.
I did. Kyle was one of those who said, Kyle and the Leafs themselves, I wanted to talk to Shane Doan and some others. And they all said that they thought it was too early in his career for a book.
Okay. Because Kyle Dubas hasn't spoken, as far as I know, like he hasn't spoken to the Toronto media at all since that day when
I think he's been on a podcast, but I'm not sure if it's even been, it's not been a local one though.
But not
so Craig Custance wrote a book that's recently just out, I think within the last year, and Kyle is in there and he's talking about the Tavares deal.
Okay. All right.
So that is out there, but he's never been one to really talk. If there's one big regret that I have about the era of Leaf managers, we went from blabbermouths like Brian Burke and all those guys that say nothing Lou Lamoriello, who trained Kyle Dubas to Kyle believed in that, say nothing. Right. And we're coming out of that now with Tree Living, who's getting himself in trouble with words like change the DNA and too vanilla, which you love, right? It tells stories, but we had that sort of dead era of no information, no color, no anything from general managers for a 5 or 6 year period.
All right. So the book definitely shows the evolution of Matthews in how he has embraced the spotlight of being a Toronto Maple Leaf. We've talked a teeny bit. We touched on it a little bit. So like when asking questions about the team or his own game, like, do you approach this any differently now that, since he was made captain versus earlier in his career?
Well, one thing you kind of do as a reporter, and it's nothing really to do with the book, he now speaks for the team. Right. So the leadership always speaks after a loss. Anybody wearing a letter, if you kind of notice the rhythm of what happens after a loss, especially after a big loss or a terrible loss or whatever, the captain and the alternates come out and they talk, more or less, at least two of them. It doesn't matter if they score or anything. Usually it's the heroes of the game after a win, but the leaders come out after a loss. And I found him to be a much better speaker now at, what is he, 28 than he was. I mean, who isn't a better speaker at 28 than at 18 or 19? But his analysis of the game is typically dead on. I mean, sometimes he or any of the players will sugarcoat a loss sometimes, but the analysis is just quoting him can carry the story and tell the story of why things happened.
Another question I have, like, we've seen his sassy side, and you've been on the receiving end of that before, and some of that's gone viral. So, like, how is it like to balance, asking some of those tougher questions with access, for example, like, what's that like as a reporter?
Well, I mean, I criticize professional athletes for a living, so I better be able to take it, right?
Yeah.
So it sort of goes with the territory, and long ago back in journalism school, they'll tell you there's no such thing as a bad question, but there was a guy that used to cover the Leafs once in a while for CTV News, Dean Brown, I think.
Oh, yeah. I remember that guy.
And when he'd come into the room, you just knew the questions were going to be outrageous, because that was his shtick, right? That was his thing. So you followed him around to get the answers, because he's going to piss off all of the players with his questions,
and you don't have to do it. So there you go.
So you just sort of go with it, right? So you just know you're going to get those answers. When I've gotten them from Auston, I was like, I didn't really see it coming, but okay, that's fine. Okay, Kevin.
I like his, like, he doesn't get petulant. He's got that sass and cleverly too. So it's fun.
I'm fine with it. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I don't really seek the spotlight in that way. Like, I don't think the reporter should ever really be the story, but I don't mind it. It's fine. It's fair game, right? If I'm criticizing somebody, you can criticize back. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right, one other question I have just about the book. I'm actually almost through it. I'm getting to the chapter of the Scottsdale affair, and when you know about the Scottsdale affair, I know about what that chapter is about. But do you think, I guess, the incident that happened in Scottsdale, do you think that I guess, like, was he going to be named captain, do you think, at that time over Tavares?
I really don't know. It makes sense that it was Tavares. It makes sense. Yeah. But it also would have made sense for it to be Matthews.
Right.
Right?
And or Morgan Riley, I guess, too,
or Morgan Riley, right?
Yeah.
Like, I just lay it out the way I felt, the way everybody felt at the time.
Yeah.
But he was definitely off the board after that, right? You just couldn't name him captain then. But it made sense that it was John Tavares.
Yeah.
And you kind of even think, well, maybe Tavares had a secret deal, name me captain at some point in this 7-year deal, right? Like, I don't know which way to go, but definitely if you go back to the and I did, of course, go back to the conversations that were the columnists were writing, newspapers were writing and stuff in that September. Babcock had said there's going to be a captain, and then of course everybody went to those three: Tavares, Matthews, and Riley, so it was up in the air as far as we were concerned. Do you give it to your best player? Do you give it to the big signing? Do you give it to the most erudite of them, which was Riley? That's where it was. Another thing, you asked me about the Maple Leafs and why he knew why the face of the Maple Leafs was, and I went off on a tangent. One of the things that happened to him in Switzerland, he played. Mark Crawford was his coach, and Mark Crawford was a big Leaf fan. I think he even worked for the Leafs early in his career. And Mark Crawford gave him a book written by a Leaf from the 60s about being a Maple Leaf. Because at the time they kind of knew the Leafs were going to draft him. So Crow talked to him a lot about what the Leafs mean and why it's important. And I think that's the education he got to understand what he was getting into.
I think when we were looking at the book, because we actually went on a road trip to Montreal, and so we were talking about it on our way down because we had time, and that was one of the quotes that popped out to us. You know what Mark Crawford was talking about with that book, and interestingly, I remember you say in there that Crawford said to him, "You're going there," so. Yeah. And that was way before he got signed, really, as the first pick. But that was I thought that was cool. That jumped out to me. Yeah.
All right. Okay. We're going to turn now to the current team. And which isn't doing too great right now, sitting in second last place in the Eastern Conference. 6 points as far as as of Saturday morning, 6 points out of the last wild card spot. Do you think this Leafs team will turn it around? No?
Okay, thanks for coming on.
I don't know.
No?
I just don't see the evidence, right? Like, I just don't see them doing enough good things. We're a third of the way through the season almost. Well, quarter on the way to a third. Yeah. And, Joe Wall is playing great. Nylander's getting tongue lashed and then producing big moments. And Matthews and Nyes are playing well. Tavares is playing well, but it's the same guys, right? It's the same guys scoring. Nobody else is scoring.
Yeah.
The defense are doing better. I just don't see, like, to me, they're a very interesting team because every other year, right, since Matthews got here, by this time of year, we're going, well, are they going to finish first, second, or third in the division? Are they going to get home ice? Like, you already know. And this year, the team, I'm astonished at how poorly they play some nights.
But why? I don't know. Do you any idea? Like, what's your thoughts on that? Because I can't figure it out. Like, it can't be that one guy not in their lineup.
It has nothing
that
to do
we shall
with
not
it.
name. Like, I don't think it has anything to do with him.
I don't think they're still scoring a ton.
I know.
They can't play in their own zone. They had very bad goaltending to start. I mean, Joe Wall may have changed the conversation there with the way he's come back. I'm just flummoxed. Like, they can't defend. They can't interrupt the cycle. They can't clear the zone. They can't pass to each other. They're not shooting. Like, so many things. So, like, I wonder first, A, have they tuned out the coach? Or B, can they simply not play the style he wants them to play? So does he have to change?
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I was thinking today. Yeah. Because it's like, if you're a good coach, you're supposed to play to your players' strengths. And if they can't do what you are wanting them to do, then you're going to have to make some kind of change. Because I found something interesting that Matthew said last night. We're recording on the Saturday after the game against Washington. He said something about, the East-West way that the Capitals play. I found that interesting that he mentioned East-West when they play North-South, or that's what they're supposed to be playing.
Oh, those Leafs definitely want to play East-West.
They do. And I just thought, I just kind of went, interesting that he used those words.
Let's play East-West for a while.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But, they do some strange things. So, like, under Sheldon Keefe, they were a puck possession team.
Mm-hmm.
So you get the puck in your own zone. So, the other team's been pressing for 45 seconds. You finally get the puck. With Berube, what they do is they get to the red line. And of course, they've been out for 45 seconds. They got to go to line change. They dump it in. They go for a line change. So now you've given up possession. The other team's got the puck. Under Keefe, they've been pressed for 45 seconds. They finally get the puck. They retreat to their own end, get a line change, and still have the puck. Berube hates that. He does not. He wants the puck to go north. He does not want it to go south. So there's a subtle difference in how they play, which means they're giving up the puck so much.
Yeah, which is odd because, like I was saying to Sylvia last night during the game or after the game, their face-off win percentage has been through the roof the last 4 games.
Fantastic!
It's fantastic, and normally, at least from what we recall, if you start with the puck, that's a good thing, right? And it's
right.
Like it's
last night they were actually okay, at least a little bit more than usual in getting out of their zone quickly. Right. But they haven't, what are they, 24, 25 games in? They just don't do that regularly. I would say by the end of this road trip, there'll be some kind of massive change. Now, the one thing that they might decide, and this would be really interesting to me, is leave everything alone. Just let these players either dig themselves out or bury themselves. Because if they get a top 5 pick, if they actually tank and get a top 5 pick, that could make a big difference because that pick that they traded for Carlo is protected for top 5.
But it better not be 6, where they seem to be. I keep checking the standings and they're like kind of right at that spot. And we're like, no, you cannot stay there.
They got to win the lottery and move on.
Oh my goodness.
But that would be interesting to me because then you're having conversations about them being sellers at the deadline and who's got value at the deadline if they continue to play the way they're playing.
Yeah, well, I heard this morning too. Apparently, one of our assistant GMs, we have so many of them. There's like 5 of them, I think, but they've been in Chicago the last few games anyway, or a couple of games. They've been in Chicago scouting.
Well, Brandon Pridham's son is in the Blackhawk organization.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
There might be something
to that
like
with
there,
that.
but yeah. So why not? Why not go to Chicago? Chicago's got a lot of good young talent. So
Yeah.
I don't know, to bring Bertuzzi back.
Yeah, no, probably
Get
not.
a little bit of that Bert and Domi magic going again.
Oh God, yeah.
I'd bring Bunting back.
Get Domi out of the press box.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then just a second question about the current team with Auston Matthews. Like, do you think, I mean, none of us know, obviously, but do you think he was 100% healthy, like, to start the season? Like, all we can do, I guess, is go by what he says. But
I
don't know.
so.
To me, he looks slower.
I don't know exactly what happened to him. I feel like he twisted a leg or something like that in the return check on Zadorov. Zadorov or whatever, the Boston Bruin. They always seem to have a big defenseman who causes them problems. I think he was healthy to start. Like, he was scoring. I mean, he didn't score 2 goals a game, but he was scoring a goal a game. So it was happening for him. I mean, it didn't look like it was because they were losing so much, but he was producing, and he does things like the other night in Columbus, I think it was, and he came back. You know, a puck was midair at the blue line, and he just sort of bunted it forward. And you don't really say anything about that, but nobody can really do. Only a handful of players have that hand-eye coordination to do that. He just kept the play alive, and those are the sorts of things that he's got to do more of. I've come to expect of him. He doesn't really get the credit for those things. Mitch is good at those things too, but Auston does them as well. And there's just those little moments to go, okay, he's there, he's back, or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So you can only really take them at their word, and then if they've lied to you, well, then they've lied to you. But I think he's healthy, and I think he's going to be fine.
Mm-hmm. Well, Kevin, this was so much fun. We thank you so much for coming on the show. Hockey fans, be sure to pick up a copy of the book Auston Matthews, A Life in Hockey, for yourself or as a gift to put under the tree for your special Leaf fan. You can find Kevin's Leaf coverage at thestar.com, and you can also follow him on X at Kevin _McGran. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Thanks for having me on, ladies. This was
Kevin.
A lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Way to spend a Saturday morning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much.
Cheers.
So thanks to Kevin McGran for coming on the show. I read most of the book, as I mentioned in the interview with Kevin, and the thing that I found most interesting was his, I guess, how Matthews was like it took a lot for him to get to the NHL, and what Kevin said about how like everything had to fall into place. And he pointed out the different things, especially starting with his mom and dad too, right? Like, to actually believe that their son is so in love with this game that they needed to put all their time and efforts and money into getting him to
they
play.
didn't steer him away from this sport,
right? Yeah,
which would have been so easy for a family down there in Arizona to do, because they would say, like, why don't you just play baseball? Like, he was really good at that too, you know?
Yeah.
Football, like, it wouldn't have been the number one thing, right? Yeah. So for him to be involved with,
and then
that's a big piece.
And then to like his relationship that he built with Boris Doroshenko, that Auston Matthews' dad had to basically try and convince him to come and coach or allow, to come to Arizona to coach Auston Matthews. And so that part of it had to work out too. And then
just happening to meet him like in Mexico or wherever they were. Like, you know, it was just a happenstance, right? Yeah.
And then the whole thing about the Winnipeg Jets moving to Arizona. Mm-hmm. Right. And for Auston Matthews as a kid to actually have a team, an NHL team to watch, that also played into it. So a lot of things got played into the player that he is today. And if one of those things didn't happen, who knows? Right?
Yeah. He's not an NHL player probably, and he's definitely not our Leafs captain.
Yeah.
One of the things that struck me when with talking with Kevin is, when I asked him about how hard it was to write the book without Auston Matthews' real involvement, or very minimal anyway. I liked his answer there that he actually preferred to write it this way because, first of all, he could take information and research that he's been doing all along because he's been covering him and the sport and the team for a long, long time. He could, also weave in the history of the team, and it gave him more flexibility to really write the book that he wanted to about Auston, from, the point of view of a reporter and, our fan point of view too, comes across really well in this book. So I really kind of loved that. And yes, because sometimes people look at, unauthorized biography and they think it's just going to be a smear job and stuff. And it's very much not that. It's a little bit of a love letter to Auston Matthews and the Maple Leafs organization in a lot of ways. I'm not saying there's no critical things in there, but it just the way he described, just like he said, how his career so far has unfolded, which you can't always, tell when you're kind of looking back, from the player's point of view. So I kind of really like that about what he said about this book.
It's a different way to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Different way to present. It's kind of refreshing that way.
Absolutely.
For a hockey book. Definitely fans out there, you can find the book on Amazon or at Indigo, and it's worth it there's a lot of Auston Matthews jerseys out there when we go to games and that. Lots of fans of Auston Matthews, definitely worth picking up a copy of the book and maybe put it underneath the tree for a Christmas gift for someone. So, all right. So now we're going to just get into looking ahead to the upcoming Leafs schedule for the next couple of weeks. And they are going to be ending their 6-game road trip in Carolina on Thursday night. Then they come back home for a 5-game homestand, starting with a couple of big Atlantic Division games versus the Habs on Saturday night, and then Tampa on Monday, December the 8th.
Yeah, let's hope that they look a little better on December 6th. Playing the Habs in that revenge game.
Yeah.
And then the Leafs are going to welcome the San Jose Sharks and all of their young talent on Thursday, December 11th. And then the following Saturday after that, Connor McDavid is going to roll into town with the Edmonton Oilers at Scotiabank Arena. The final game of the homestand is going to be on December 16th, and that will be versus the Chicago Blackhawks. More young talent there. So
yeah, it's interesting how starting with San Jose, you got Macklin Celebrini, then you got Connor McDavid, then you got Connor Bedard coming in, right? 1, 2, 3. And on December 16th, that's the Joe Bowen, I guess, night.
Oh, yeah,
his
celebration night.
Yeah, so that'll be a big night too. So but those first 2 games versus in the homestand versus the Lightning and the Habs, got to win those games. Got to win those games because we don't have a good record, and it's amazing how we still haven't played the Senators. That's coming the end of December, but because they're just rolling along. But so it's another big couple of weeks for this Leafs team.
Yeah, this is where they can turn it around, hopefully, with everybody healthy and hopefully getting some stability finally in the lineup, so that they're not having to shuffle people around constantly, and they're going to get a little bit used to playing with who they're playing with and develop a little bit more team chemistry. Because honestly, that's a huge piece of a defensive game. You got to know where people are, or you're just not going to be able to defend well, right? So and break the puck out either. So I think that's a huge thing.
And it'll be interesting to see if we see Anthony Stolarz at some point.
Yeah, he's kind of MIA right now.
Yeah. So that, I mean, Joseph Woll has been playing fantastic.
And Hildeby played really well last night too on Saturday.
So we've been doing good. But I mean, Joseph Woll just came back. You don't want to, you don't want to risk that too much sort of thing, right? You want to, but thankfully, like you said, Hildeby is doing okay, but we gave Anthony Stolarz that contract, right? So hopefully, whatever it is, I don't know. I'm thinking it has to be a concussion again. I don't know, right?
He was getting a lot of abuse in the net, so people were taking quite a few liberties in the games leading up to that. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. So whatever, you have to take care of that obviously before you come back. All right. So don't forget to follow us on social media. Our handle is at LTL1917. And be sure to look for the link for our new segment, Leave It to the Ladies. It's available on all of our social media profile pages and in the show notes of all of our episodes. You can find the show notes just by scrolling down on the episode page on the app that you're using to listen to the show. Also, hit that follow button on Apple or Spotify or wherever you're listening to our podcast, and we'll have you up to date on the Leafs all throughout the season. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and we have a lot of new video content there from games we attend at home and on the road, including our recent road trip to Montreal. And you can also listen to our show on the Believe Network at Believe.com. It's BLEAV.com. And we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a rating or a review and let us know what you think of the show. Feedback from our listeners is so important, and we thank you for taking the time.
And another way to help us out is by visiting our Ko-fi page at Ko-fi.com. You can follow us there, and if you choose to, you can support us by buying us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and making it even better for you. You can find the link to our Ko-fi page on our show notes or in any of our social media profile pages.
And as always, thank you to our healthcare workers and first responders for everything that they do.
And we thank you, as always, for listening and watching Ladies Talking Leafs. Till next time, go Leafs, go.
Do you believe?